Can you hear me, Holly?
Yes, ma'am, I can see you. I can hear you. It's clear as a bell, my dear. Uh-oh, you just went silent. Now I can't hear you.
You serious?
Now I can hear you.
We need to meet tomorrow when you're here.
Yes, ma'am. See, now I think I don't hear you because I don't hear any background sound.
It'll be because I muted it.
Okay. Worries me. You're clear as a bell. I'm fuzzy. Do I look fuzzy to you? I can't hear what you're saying. Not a word. You're gonna have to call IT.
Why?
Now I
Why?
hear you. And now I don't.
Because those.
Yep, you're cutting in and out. It's like that problem we have. Can't hear any of that.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? They're on their way.
Now you cut out. Can't hear you. It seems like it's a loose wire because it's just like it clicks on and off. I, I you're unmuted and I can't hear you.
Not my rodeo.
Now I can hear you. Yeah. It's a struggle.
you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes,
All of them are on now.
Okay,
Okay,
should be good.
if I turn on video, is that gonna be a bad thing?
That should be fine.
Can you still hear us?
yes, ma'am. Do we think we fixed it?
They reset it, so we'll see.
It's kind of like it gets tired or something. It has to be reset. Often.
Yeah. We got it working with the one that we normally log in with, but then she logged in differently. So we're thinking it's tied to that.
Oh, so we're blaming Cheryl. Don't blame Cheryl. Cheryl does a lot of
Broad
work for
shoulders,
me.
broad shoulders.
Do you want her help or not? Because if you want her help, we're gonna blame Cheryl.
I love Cheryl. I love Cheryl.
That doesn't mean we don't love her too. It's just,
That doesn't any blame. I can take it.
I'll take the blame for Cheryl.
okay.
I
It's
love
Holly's
Cheryl.
fault.
I gotta protect her.
All right, you should be all set.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I told you I was on the struggle bus today.
Me too, sister. Hi, I think we've got it all working so far, Todd. Can you hear me?
I can, yes,
Okay.
yeah, just,
We got
just
people
logged
coming
on.
in and out. We got people coming in and out, so I'm just gonna turn it on mute.
Thank you, ma'am.
Everybody hear me?
Yes,
All right, should we go ahead and get started, or are we still waiting for the mayor?
We are still waiting for the mayor, is that correct, sir? There he is. We're no longer waiting.
Our brochure. Oh, okay. Here comes the man. No. Got 3 different projects. This is twice.
And Chuck, just so you know, Chuck, can you hear me?
3 people, so.
Yeah.
I've got a 3 o'clock hard stop.
Well, the quicker we get through, the better for me too, because I've got about 50 people wanting answers from me right now, so.
Hey, chop chop.
Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order, December 18th, 2024, 76 Entertainment Community Improvement District. Billy, can you give us prayer, please?
Of course. Father, we are thankful for this day, this month of celebrating the miracle birth of your son. We're just thankful for that we can celebrate, and hopefully all of us will continue to focus on the things above. Things that we're going to we thank you for the end of the year. It's been a blessing year for Branson. We thank you for the mayor, the alderman, city staff for a great year. And I pray for a great new coming at 2025. That we look forward and pray that you give us wisdom and direction as to where you want us to go. As we meet today, we pray, Father, for that you be in the midst of our discussion. And I pray that we would have a good direction. I know there's a lot of pending stuff that's been kind of hanging over. We just ask that you continue to work the detail of getting all this agreement signed. I know it's been challenging. Just ask, Father, for your hand upon that. And again, thank you for this holiday. I know there's a lot of people traveling. We ask for the safety for everybody who's traveled during this winter. Be with us as we discuss, and ask that you bless our meeting today. In your name we pray. Amen.
None. All right, Paul, can you do roll call, please?
Sure. So Billy is here, Mike,
Here.
Kathy
Here.
and Alex.
Here.
The mayor is here. Brian.
Here.
And of course, Chuck.
All right. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the November 13th, 2024 meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion, comments, questions regarding the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor of approval of the minutes, please state by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Next thing is the presentation from CJW on the 76-165 intersection. Michael, you want to kind of take that over for now?
Sure, for half second, I'd like to propose, push that to the bottom to beyond 10. As we're waiting for the consultants to get online, or on phone with them right now, so we'll loop back to that. That's okay.
Is that
Anybody?
anything be approved?
Nothing to be approved today. It was discussed over internet, so they had.
Hey, anybody have any issues or concerns with that? Okay, hearing none, we'll slide that down to the bottom. Okay, Todd, project financing update.
Yeah, good afternoon. I think my report is going to be very brief and very quick. I mean, from a practical standpoint, we have the bond issue basically kind of on pause until we have a little more clear definition around the project and the bidding timeline and such. One carryover item that I'd mentioned last month is we do have a very rough draft of bond documents that bond counsel prepared, and they're going through and looking at some suggested changes to the cooperation agreement. So Paul and I have had some very preliminary discussions and direction to them on that. And so that's kind of one item that's forthcoming that I think we'll see something after the first of the year on that. So that kind of concludes my report, Chuck.
Okay, thanks, Todd. Anybody have any questions, anything that they need answered from Todd? Okay, thank you. Hearing none, move on to the review of the CID financials.
Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Ramsey. I'm the finance director. So we have the financials in the packet that was provided to you in email. For October, we received 585,000 in total revenue, with 548,000 being sales tax revenue and 37,000 being interest income. We spent $16,157 in October. The revenue in October over October last year was decreased by 6.2% over October last year. But then if you go ahead and look at November's numbers over November last year, it was actually an 8.4% increase. And then overall for the year, year to date over this time last year, we see for November a 1.1% increase over this time last year. In October, we did only see a 0.6% increase in sales tax revenue over this time last year for gross sales tax received. Are there any questions on the financials or more details?
Anybody have any questions regarding the financials?
Not that easy first one.
Everybody else is. Thank you.
Okay, no questions. Thank you for the report. Moving on to item number 6, approval of the 2025 budget and appropriating funds.
This is just a housekeeping item. The district previously approved the proposed budget. The city approved it. Now it comes back for the final approval and the actual appropriation of those funds. Nothing in the actual budgeted line items has changed.
Does anybody have any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2025 budget and the appropriation of the funds.
I second.
Okay, first, second, any further discussion, questions, comments? Hearing none, all those that are in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, thank you, thank you. Mary, we moving quick enough for you here?
I love it.
Hey, Chuck,
Yes, ma'am.
Chuck, would you mind signing that and sending it to me so that I can get Mr. Patrick to sign it also, please?
Yeah, it's in the email you sent the other day, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yeah, and
Really in
Does it
the
need-
email, Paul, it's in the email Paul sent.
can it be a digital signature or do you need actual ink?
Paul,
We should have an actual signature in the original files that the city keeps.
Okay, so is a scanned copy okay, or do I need to sign it and bring it back home with me?
If you want to sign it, scan it, send it to Cheryl, and then bring that original back home with you.
Okay, I can do that.
thank you.
All right, Michael, Jeremy, update on the easement acquisition status.
Sure. So easements are moving right along since the last meeting. I know it's a little bit of a short time that's there. Provided the same layout as we had before with the map that shows the general areas that are there. Working from top to bottom, Quick Land, we met with them a couple times. IHOP, we've discussed, and once Mr. Cushman gets his in, that we'll be able to surpass in meeting that. So the redesign for that will be there. We're still asking for any help for Mr. Patel for Stafford or Branson, Victoria Inn, if anybody knows him or knows a way to get him. We've placed phone calls, we've asked for return phone calls, so on and so forth. Bigfoot is and talks to our counsel or our lawyer that's here. Algorand has kind of gone silent, and I believe that's because of the holidays. But we continue to ask them for their feedback. The next ones are in conversation with Miss Kathy and seem to be moving along, but we did get a part of the construction easement back to them and waiting for their review comments. I know the holidays are hard as you get into them. The track and extreme part are still working through ownership issues that are there. Mr. Cushman is on his final review, so that went back and forth between the city a couple times, and it's there. And then Zenith Properties, of course, but we are still asking Universal to help, and we've also picked up the phone and talked to the board of directors. We had significant progress as we assumed that we would. As we talked about, asked to get towards the end of the year. Is it 100%? No, but we saw some significant changes from red to green to yellow, and super excited for everybody that has signed on this month. I wish, looking back, I would have put the dates on everything, but we, from Cracker Barrel to GBI Leasing to Hughes Property to Schlotzsky's, but we had a lot of movement quickly, and so we're confident and high, we have high hopes that here shortly in the new year that we can get some more of this taken care of. I'll leave the update till next month.
Is it possible for you guys to, I know at one point we had a projected schedule for completion, then bonding, and then construction start date. Obviously, we're not going to hit Jan 1. Can we get an updated estimated schedule according to that for the next meeting?
Jeremy, you have anything else for that?
No, I mean, I think the only other thing I have to offer is I think that I think we've provided documents that have given the flexibility to hopefully get anything negotiated that needs to be negotiated one way or the other. It looks like a lot of the documents, that have fallen into place are some of the ones that were out there, being discussed. And so now really it's just buttoning them up with some of the modified documents, excuse me. And it looks, I think in January, we're gonna see things fall into place. It looks good.
Gee, I have a question. Am I reading this right? The greens are approved and the lighter greens are not signed?
Correct. Yep. So it's that lots.
Because when I look at the numbers don't look that bad, right?
Right.
But when you look at the map, that's significant.
Yeah, it's like a lot of square footage.
Yeah.
One person holds 5.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And we're confident that conversations can continue forward.
Trying. Now I feel like he's ducking and dodging and leaving, so hopefully I'll be able to connect. I don't think there's anything untoward there. It's just a matter of him having the time to sit down and understand from the lawyers what their challenges are. So he's in good spirits about it.
And who is that, Kat?
Matt Wilcox.
Okay. Anything else in regards to the easement acquisition status or timeline? Anybody have any questions, comments? Okay. Hearing none, let's move on to the discussion and confirm consensus for additional funding for design and construction services regarding city and Great River Engineering contract. Jeremy?
Awesome. So guys, I took a look at where we are in terms of our timeline, and the schedule we had our drawings done, as we've moved forward, the schedule has kind of pushed us on, so we're still continuing to do coordination meetings, we're still trying to keep up with any of the design changes that are necessary. There will be a few additional services, I think, to get us where we can actually get the documents bid. Some of the things that we have are with LPA bid documents, because we do have a part of the project that's funded. And we have two sets of bid documents. So we don't just have one set of bid documents, we actually have a second set of bid documents that follow the LPA format. And we have yet to receive comments back from MoDOT. Things still need to settle out where that's concerned. So there are gonna be a few extra things to get us to bidding, and so I tried to project forward so that I could make sure that we're in good shape to get us there, and have done that with, with an estimation of $45,700, and would like your consensus on being able to move forward with a contract amendment to keep us on track for getting things bid.
So Jeremy, what I just heard you say, I think, is we have bid documents for the project. You're calling it LPA?
LPA,
And that
local
has-
public agency bid documents.
And that has to do with MoDOT?
It does.
So.
It has to do with the TAP grant that we received.
Yes, okay. You have forecasted crystal ball timeframe of when we'll have that completed?
We already have a rough draft of the documents, and the contract, the construction documents have been sent to MoDOT, but we have not received any comments back. I suspect that they will wait, they'll probably get those comments back to us after the first of the year. And those modifications will have to be made so that we can do that. It's not really an original part of what we had going on in our contract, so those LPA documents put us over the top a bit, but the LPA documents are a requirement for the funding, and the Hawk signals were kind of an extra part of that. So long story short, we're running up against just knowing that we're going to have some things that we need to button up to get the documents. After we get any other changes coming to us, we're going to have to make those changes. We're going to have to go through the documents and make sure that all the bid documents are on track. Every time there's a change to any modification, we have to change quantities, and quantities and takeoffs in this situation are critical, as we all know.
Cheryl,
Okay, so
sorry to interrupt, just to make it a little easier. Cheryl, do you have the ability to pull the
Document
quote
that I sent?
up on the screen?
Maybe. Oh, do you have it by any chance where I sent it to you?
while Paul's looking that up, then we're not being held up solely from these easements, right? We have other issues that are preventing us from trigger.
Mhm.
Because I was under the impression that we were dressed up, ready to go, just waiting for these.
For the easements,
Yes.
so the easements have to be in place before MoDOT will give you a nod on anything, of course. And so once the easements are in place, then MoDOT will give a nod, hopefully in the affirmative on the plans, but they will not finish their review until the easements are in place. It's a stair step. There's an environmental review that's been underway for a long time, and so that will be buttoned up as well. And that's I mean, we don't have anything to do with that. They've received all the information, so there are several things that are in MoDOT's court right now.
I have it pulled up if you guys want to give me control.
Okay. You want me to make you the host, Chuck?
Yeah. Okay. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So probably my biggest question that I had when reviewing this was the creative design for almost $13,000. My question is related to, I mean, we've already got, you know, stuff designed out, or if we're making modifications to people's property in front of them, then I can understand the creative design aspect, but I mean, is that what the plan is? To make
Creative design, the creative design is where Vireo, which is the landscape and the irrigation plans falls. And so for every change, when we know that the easements are signed, there are gonna be modifications to the irrigation plans that have to be made. We don't want to make the modifications to the irrigation plans yet, but that's an expensive proposition, unfortunately.
All right, so that wasn't included in the original scope.
They've already got it designed and those plans are done already. So when we go to change them, they have to be redone. Yes.
Right, understood, but if we get all easements signed, then that $12,850 is not part of something we would have to do then.
We still have to go back and make sure that we check, and there have been changes that have not been accommodated in those plans. Yeah.
So for clarity, Jeremy, for clarity then, design work is not completed. Because what I heard was the design work was completed. And then the question was, well, once we get all the easements in, and then I'm hearing you say, well, we're still gonna have to make more adjustments.
There have been modifications in the easement documents that take things away or change things that have not been made in the design documents. The design documents were done October 31. We're finished, but any changes that happened in those details for landscape and for irrigation, no one can afford to make those changes for 4 or 5 times. We can't do that. So those changes would need to be made in these final throes of the project here.
Jeremy, are those modifications that are occurring as the city negotiates to obtain the easements?
We are not making the modifications to the detailed plans as we are negotiating, because
No,
those
my
negotiations aren't complete yet.
my question is, is it to make those modifications as a result of the city's negotiations?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
So Michael, have we made a lot of different concessions on different property owners that we received easements on that would require this kind of rework?
There's a little bit of rework on, Mr. Grove properties, those weren't taken into effect, and then as we remove stuff, they would have to remove it from the plan.
But as they remove things, like what does that mean?
So like if we do, we've done some adjustments to driveways wider, closer together, whatever, all the plannings and drawings and.
Since the plans were finished in
Yes.
October.
We've gotten some of the easements, there's been some adjustments. What she's calling for is that they they basically did rough drawings and then be the overlay to finish that back in once everything's locked in, is what I hear they're saying. Is that correct, Jeremy?
Yes, that's correct.
But Journey, wouldn't you have had to, I guess, it seems like everybody's kind of, we're dancing around this just a little bit, so I'll go a little bit deeper. Wouldn't that be predictable? Like, once you've got all the final, I guess I'm struggling with why that is. I can see if there's dramatic changes to where now you've got to reroute some irrigation lines or water lines or that sort of thing. But I would think that as part of the usual and customary scope, that it would be assumed as a bad word, but figured common sense wise, included that you guys would have to go back now and just make sure that everything that's finalized, you know, is that it's all part of that. You have to go back through anyway, just to verify that the final documents can be the final documents.
We did go back and make sure that everything was finalized at the end of October, which is the date that I told you I would be done. And we
Yeah,
were.
I guess I'm just saying, but we didn't have nearly all the easements by then. And so, I don't know, I guess I'm just thinking as project management history in my life, just like this would be something that would be coming. I would just think of that as kind of being within reason, within the original scope. I mean, it's not a horrendous amount of money, but you know, as we're looking at all the different overages and how quickly those can add up, I think that's why you're hearing a little bit more, not cynicism, but questioning,
Sure.
you know?
It's a lot of buttoning up.
But see, I look at it similar to the way Kathy is. I would look at it from the perspective that task 4, 5, and 7 would have already been included in the original scope.
They
So that's,
weren't absolutely included
That-
in the original scope, but the changes that we've been going through were not necessarily included in the original scope. We didn't have anything to do with the right-of-way acquisition. We wrote the right-of-way documents and prepared them and delivered them, but we've now rewritten them a number of times, as you know. And you know, I feel pretty good about the changes and the modifications and all the things that we've done, but we want to make sure that the bidding documents are solid. And the changes that we've gone through, the changes that we've made to kind of get to where we need to be, have put us in a position where we need to make sure that, I mean, there are lots of easement documents out there. We recently went through to make sure that we had the right easement documents and that we were going to reflect the correct improvements in a number of places.
Yeah, I hear that. I just would think that would be something that would be a natural progression in a project like this is all. So just to see overages like that, it hits, you know what I mean? It just kind of stings, because I'm like, huh? I mean, I'm looking at 4, 5, let's see, 4, 5, 7. I don't know, I'm struggling with that, Jeremy, you know, and remember you and I had a conversation a while back about some overages where I'm like, oh my God, and some of these things, I'm wishing you guys could sharpen your pencil a little bit more, maybe. That's how I'm feeling as a board member. And it feels nickel and dimey. I know I'm not being politically correct here, and I don't mean to be offensive. It's just in a project of this magnitude, knowing that after easements are signed, you're gonna have to go back and recheck your final documents before it goes out to bid. That would be a usual and customary course of business. And so now to charge extra for that, again, I'm not counting, like if somebody said, no, you can't put the water line here and we have to do some kind of reroute thing, that's different, but to go back and recheck the final documents, make sure they're final to me would usually be normal.
There's a lot more to it than that, and we have rerouted water lines and we have rerouted utility corridor. And we have redone documents, and we've tried to prepare things so that negotiations could proceed. And we've really tried to do that in good faith, Kathy.
Okay,
What I will tell you is that we completed the documents exactly when we said that we would. And we submitted those documents. I didn't have any control over the right of way and the right of way negotiations at all. In fact, those were completely separate contracts. So while we tried to support the effort, we really had nothing to do with that effort.
No, I know that.
I can assure you, we're not nickel and diming. If we break even, we will, that's about the best we're gonna do, if I'm honest. I just would like to not write off, money for this project. I'd rather not go into our relationship, further our relationship that way either.
You.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns? Paul, are we able to vote for an approval on this or no because of the timing of when it all came in?
Well, I mean, I think y'all can express your consensus, but Michael, when do you plan on taking this amendment to the Board of Aldermen?
I think it's second meeting or first meeting.
In January?
Yes.
Our first meeting in January is the 14th.
Yeah. So as this GRE's contract is with the city, not with the CID. So I think Michael was just running this by the CID to make sure it was fully informed and to gather feedback. But otherwise this would just be part of the CID project cost. And y'all can express your opinions, and then I'm sure, the city will take those into account when the board formally considers whether to approve amendment number 2 or not.
Oh, that's correct. Before the Board of Aldermen would vote on something like this, I believe they would be heavily relying on the input of this board. Because this board is in the weeds and thoroughly understands what's at hand. And the aldermen not attending these meetings, this is gonna be a question for them to vote on that they have very little or no information on. So I think you're gonna be relying on this board's opinions.
Okay. Well, how do you guys want to share your thoughts on this? Do you go to each individual person, or I mean, I can start if you guys would like.
Please.
Okay. So my experience with projects is that when you do a project, you get construction documents 100%, and that's where it is, right? And when you get full construction documents, that's what your contract is based off of. So I have heartburn with, like I said, task 4, 5, and 7 on this, because I would need to go back and look at the contract to see what originally was called out, but that's where I have the biggest heartburn associated with this. Not to mention, we already did a change order of, I think, what, $25,000. We approved a $25,000 change order on the contract for additional services. So that's my biggest heartburn on this, is those 3 items, which basically are equivalent of about $30,000 that I would have thought would have already been included. And when you get 100% construction documents, that's when you move on to the next phase of scope of work. So that's where my heartburn is on this.
Eric, also, I agree with your comments, and that lines up with Kathy's comments. So As we're going around the table, that's my 2 cents.
What do you guys think, Brian?
Well, I'd have to land on your guys' experience on, you know, a project like this and. I do share in some of the same concerns. For me, it wasn't brought up, but I mean, I get what you're, I thought the land surveying was all done, you know, in one fell swoop. So I questioned that initially, it's are we re-surveying because we're changing stuff and, you know, with our survey, why do you have to re-survey it? Just something you already know what lot lines are and property lines are. So I guess, you know, maybe Jeremy, if we were to assume that we continue down this path and acquire all the necessary easements that we're after still, is this the most we would expect, or is there more forthcoming order, you know, is there, or conversely, if we don't get those necessary easements and we have to move around, and is that what this is encompassing too?
No, the biggest part of the design that you see here encompasses design for the hawks, design for moving water line and utility chase, for the landscape changes, for irrigation changes, the things that as a result of some of the negotiations and the changes and the suggested changes for right-of-way that have occurred. It's a big set of documents, guys. It's, you know, it's over 200 sheets. And, you know, I know that it feels like it must be very easy to make those changes, but it telescopes. Every change goes to another change. This is not like an architecture project where you have a % of construction. This is an infrastructure project. And so every change to a driveway constitutes a change to stormwater, which constitutes a change to a quantity or curb and gutter or pavement or whatever. And I wish it were easier, but it's not.
I wish that we could, Jeremy, maybe it's just that it's so lumped and generalized that the scrutiny is coming. So if it's, you know, I think maybe what we could do for this board and the Board of Aldermen is if we could just kind of, I'd like to see an itemization of what changes are spurring these charges. Right? Is it 17 different properties that have to have different surveying done? Is it 3 properties we have to change the survey a little bit on the driveways? Is it 6 properties that we have to do rerouting or changes to irrigation and water lines? It's too vague, honestly. And I don't feel for my vote that it's responsible to support something as vague, and I get what you're saying, we all know that, right? You make one change to something, it affects different pages. You know, I've built things in my life too, so I understand all that. I know it's not as simple as an architecture project, that's a given, like this is much more complex, but I just think it's too, it's like, I can't make it stick in my head without having more detail. You must have used some details to come up with these charges, and maybe you could share that breakdown with us to help us understand it better, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. I can put something together. I don't have things I can prepare. I don't have anything prepared to
No,
go
I
through in this
understand.
moment.
No, I wasn't asking that, and I wouldn't expect that either, because I'm putting you on the spot, but I think that would just, I know that would make me feel better.
Okay.
And Mike, I didn't mean to step on you. What are your
Well,
thoughts?
I mean, I don't think I could offer anything that hasn't been said, you know, in my mind, and I'm glad Chuck brought up 25,000, because that was, well, I'm like, we did pass that. In my mind, that's kind of cleaning up the surprises we're seeing today. And you know, are there gonna be future problems?
I'm in agreement with everybody here, basically just, you know, more detailed, more, where do the changes come from, that, so. I know that there are things that change because of continuing on, But still, I think it'd be good. Also, it's good also for the future if there's gonna be changes. So we know how they react, because it also can be determined forecasting, especially now that we got a bunch of people that will not be signing this document, and then they may have to do something. Then all of a sudden, you can probably forecast it. And maybe that's something that they can probably do that right now. We got pretty close of where we are gonna be, and so we probably can determine what that is and say, yeah, we're here, but we're gonna be in this.
Yeah, it helps us negotiate for the easements, Jeremy, right? If we have a foundational understand, a ballpark foundational understanding of what said negotiation will cost to the project, right? Before we go saying, sure, fine, we'll move the drug, we'll do this, we'll do that. And then, oh my God, we're gonna get a bill for $50,000, right? It might change the way we handle the negotiation on our side. So that's why I'm picking at this,
Uh-huh.
okay? Alex?
Well, I commend this board for taking the effort into making sure that every single dollar spent is justified and drilled down into. And, Jeremy, we have been down this path before, so I think it's even more valid that we continue to explore these. So I would have voted no today if we would have had this in front of us. Thank you.
Yeah. That's what you said.
Yeah. I've said my piece. I think Tabby had a great suggestion. It may be more palatable if we could see some of the breakdown. Like, it'll help us understand these figures. But it'll also help us as we're looking at possible other changes.
I'm just looking at, and I'm sorry, I'm beating this dead horse, I'm sorry, but I'm looking at like $7,000 additional land surveying. Like, I'm in the wrong business, I'm thinking right now to myself, but I'm like, I know what surveyors cost, and I'm like, oh my God, how much additional surveying is there versus what was originally in the scope? So those are the kinds of things that I'll be looking at. So thank you, Jeremy.
Okay, thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, any other questions, comments, concerns on this? Okay.
Chuck Torgerson and CJW joined us midline of that conversation, so whenever you're ready.
Okay, well, let's just go ahead and move on to CJW, Michael.
Torgerson's,
Jay, if you want to start off.
Sure.
Or Chris.
Jay or Chris or anybody from Torgerson?
This is John Torgerson. I'm on.
Okay.
I think
Feel
Chris
free
is
to-
on. Looks like he's muted, but
Feel free to ask for permission to share your presentation and work through that today for 10 or so minutes.
yes, we'd love to share that. We sent it, I think, late last week. It is a broad stroke. It's a first swing, just to seeing, an understanding from this group where you're.
Which one of you needs to be the host to share? Is that you, Chris, Jay?
Ferguson, Paul would be who needs it.
Okay.
We sent that into to the city, and I thought that was on their system. Do you want us to pull that up?
Yeah, that would be great if you could, John.
Okay, hang on just a second. I wasn't prepared for that, so let me.
Sorry about that, John. We presented to them for record, and
Oh,
so that they have that PowerPoint there. We just figured you would be wanting to be in control of clicking the slides.
Okay, you mind to give me a minute then?
Sure.
So we go ahead and jump onto the discussion of transportation since we're gonna wait on them to try to keep this moving. All right, who's gonna lead the discussion on transportation?
I can do that. So I think this is in regards to the trolley system, right? So this is something we continue to advocate for. I think this is a fantastic idea. It shows collaboration across cities. This is something the city continues to work on. A lot of other folks in town are trying to come up with a public transportation system. That's great. We want to work in conjunction with that, but at the same time, I think it makes very logical sense to cost share in some respect, and I think the city would be willing to partner on something like that. Movement of traffic is constantly an issue. That's why we're at this table today with 76, right? And so the trolley system, I think, is a fantastic idea. And I guess in 2025, we'll continue to put meat on the bones of this idea. But it'd be really great if we get to a point where the historic downtown Sid as well as the 76 CID have the opportunity to collaborate, not just in their own taxing jurisdictions, but across our city to strengthen our entire tourism industry. So this is a larger play than I guess just, the board of directors of each SID. I think that's our job as the city, right, to come in and think globally on these types of things. So we're going to continue to work on this idea, and I would really encourage more reflection and thought from this board on possibly pursuing that some type of avenue along those lines.
I agree with that. I think when this idea first came up and during the first couple of discussions, I think there were so many positives in those discussions. My biggest concern at the beginning, and I understand where Paul's at, was the legal side of both of the CIDs. And if there wasn't anything we could do with the documents as written, one suggestion that was thrown out was maybe the one CID's funding participation could end at their boundary line and the other one ends at their boundary line. But there's still a way to connect the two. And that may take a third entity. I'd hate to go that route, but we're just looking at solutions because I believe that this system would go an awfully long way to address how many times in this room has people been asked about, we don't have any transportation. And it would be not just for visitors, but I think it would help employees. And a difference of with downtown, downtown SID, those are free trolleys. And one idea, somebody has to do the preliminary math. But if it was a $5 all day ticket, using the numbers of participation with downtown today, I believe somebody had comparables of what other communities charge. But a $5 all day pass, what would we anticipate that revenue being? And how much participation we would get by connecting 76 and downtown.
I don't recall, but we brought this in the meeting several times. And there was a mention of a study that's already been done. And I still haven't seen anything at this point. So how we move forward? I know, I think we all in support and trying to figure out how to make it happen. What's the next step? I mean, what does that mean? I know we've been brought up, and I think the idea is great in a lot of ways. I don't know what's the legal in terms of what CID can do and all that stuff.
Well, I think I don't know. I think we're at the position of getting support from this board and getting support from the downtown CID board. And once we have support from both, then I think it would benefit paying some money to do some studies or some research, maybe some legal work. I just think the end result would be worth it. But there's no sense in starting down this path if this board says, no way.
So really, you guys are asking the board to see any kind of agreement or some kind of
if there's an interest
they can say, okay, you guys are interested in us, so right now you're just asking us of what
level of interest, yes.
And to make sure there's no vehement opposition.
Yeah, yeah.
right? And if there is, we can talk through it, right? But if there's vehement opposition on this board, then, you know, we may have to have a little bit different conversation, right? So we don't want to step on toes. Can I just say it? We're trying not to step on anybody's toes. And the SIDS, we're being very respectful of the separate entity, but yet we are all spokes in the same wheel. And so, because it's a trolley. And so that's how we're kind of approaching it with the downtown folks too, is not telling them what to do with their money, because that's a very sensitive thing. Same thing with this group. We're not saying you should take your dollars and blow a whole bunch on buying 6 trolleys, right? That's not what we're advocating for. We're dipping our toe in the water to find out, is this something that we should spend our time, because it's very limited, our bandwidth, right? Internally here, is this something that we should pursue? Are you guys genuinely interested?
You know, there was a mention from Gail and also from Paul regarding limitation of the CID pool. Do you
And
know,
that's
where is that at? I mean,
That's an obvious to me, Billy. It didn't even had to be said.
okay,
Because at the end of the day, we could craft something, if it pencils, we could craft something that is respectful of all those legal confines, right?
Yeah.
So we're not gonna go over the lines of what legally the SIDS can or can't do. That's like elementary to me.
okay,
So what we're just trying to find out is the concept of it. Is somebody going, no way, we don't want trolleys on 76. We don't want, you know, to have to worry about that. And again, I'm not saying the SID would even really have to worry about the management of that. This is just the precursor idea. Dare I say, similar to probably what the landing's initial idea was, right? It's got to start somewhere. And so this is that starting point, is all we're asking.
okay.
But yeah, the legal stuff, that's so far away right now.
So, yeah, I guess the simple question is there enough interest from this board to say, you know what, we are interested, let's keep moving this process forward before we spend any time and money on putting all of this together? And we're gonna be asking the downtown SID board the exact same question, right? If they say we're not interested, then we'll put this aside.
Have they been approached at all? Do they have any idea?
Yes.
Yes.
Support there?
Well, we haven't talked to their board members, right? But we've had topical, very high level
So,
plans.
Yeah, and so. I don't know which board we talk to first. We happen to be sitting here, and if somebody here, I mean, if this isn't gonna be viable, then we don't need to go talk to them, right? And we'll just save our time and money doing other things. So the real question is, now, Chuck, if you don't mind, I'd like to hear from each board member's opinion on how they feel about it, and at the end of the day, if it made sense, if it made economical sense, if it was legal, would there be an interest in pursuing it with obviously no commitments?
I'm good with that. Let's just go around the room. Go ahead, Billy. You want to start?
Yeah, we're exploring. And, I think we serve not only the tourist market, but also the local, you got the employee that, all that stuff. So, at this point here, we owe it to the people to do the research. I mean, if it's very viable and everything else works out and everything like that, I don't know. Now there's an obstacle in terms of the dollars and all stuff. We cross that bridge when we get there, but at this point here, we're saying, can it be done? Well, if it's not, and we didn't do it, it's like, have we served the community? Have we served the tourists? Have we served in a way that, so I think if all we're trying to do is explore, and I know that the interest should be well received because we're all about people mover. We're trying to move people. We're trying to, whether it's worker or guest, that's all about solving problems. And so the whole CID is it's all about solving problems. And this is one of those problems. Now you can't, if we don't go through the process of due diligence, we actually not doing justice to anybody.
Nice.
So for me, I would just, all we're doing is trying to explore it to see whether or not there's potentially, is there a window out there that we ought to look at?
Definitely interested, and I've brought it up a couple times, you look at Pigeon Forge, you see those trolleys all over town, and I know people that live there that have talked positive, that they've used them. Especially when they have some family in town and want to get, and now they just started expanding their service to Gatlinburg. So we know it's working in other areas that look like ours, so definitely will be looking at.
Yeah, same. I mean, it's something worth exploring. I've said that, in the past, and it's a matter of maybe timing for me. Is it worth your bandwidth right now to jump into that as we're, right in the thick of this? And so I still question that. And I'll just, the information on downtown, what is it producing?
Yeah.
And what is it, a revenue perspective look like? And what does a trolley cost? And what does the infrastructure of this cost, or a rough idea, broad strokes idea, so we know, because, we don't really even know what Jeremy's bid talks come up to and what that costs. We have an idea of what, are we in the good there? Are we gonna get lucky and have some extra cash, or I say extra cash, have some money that we didn't know we had to then go into a study and say, what does this look like? Or are we upside down already? We don't even know it. And hey, this is a non-starter. We don't have anything. We don't have any business exploring this right now unless the revenue side of it is so great that it makes up for the expense.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Sure.
Hey, Chuck?
Yeah.
Can I ask Ann what she thinks? I know she represents our board in terms of, and she's been involved from the beginning. Do you care if I ask? What do you think? What you thought?
Well, I think I mentioned once before when the discussion came up, the original master plan called for trolleys, called for public transportation. It's kind of a natural offshoot of this project. If it can be economically done, if we've all got the bandwidth for it. I share Brian's concerns about timing, but I think it's definitely worth investigating. And we could even go back to some of those master plan ideas and evaluations to see how they justified it in the beginning to have some trolleys.
And I know that if this is something that it is, I know there's available grant somewhere in there, probably out there, especially when Dr. Susan Iwamoto. But especially this is kind of stuff they're looking for.
That's right.
The very thing that, it's important to the state and,
So, and do you have the ability to gather some of those original documents that even addressed a trolley?
The city probably does.
Maybe, there's a few Bud Lights around.
This,
I'll do some hunting, but no promises.
the city should have those from CFS.
Yeah.
Oh, we do? Oh, sure.
Yeah. So I've got two positions on this. From a public transportation scenario, I look at it that, yeah, it's something that's definitely needed, something that the city has needed for quite a long time to move the public around. You see the scooters, you see all these different things, you see people walking. So I believe that from that perspective, that it's definitely something that's interested and needed, and I have interest in it. From a business perspective, I'm going to bring up the same thing I brought up a while back, and this is probably the biggest concern I have. Parking is an issue in the city. There is no public parking on 76 at all. So people are going to be parking in businesses, and that's going to take away from potential revenue from those businesses. Yes, I understand that trolleys are going to be dropping people off at those potential businesses, but that's based on the stop, right? So say I have a stop in front of the Hollywood Wax Museum. Yes, people are going to get dropped off there, but does that mean they're coming to the Hollywood Wax Museum, or they're going to go across the street to Beyond the Lens, or they're going to walk up to Ripley's, or what have you? We don't know the answer to that. But if people are parking in my parking lot and then hopping in the trolley, I know for sure that whoever drives into my parking lot when it's full, they're not going to stay and go to my facility. They're going to go somewhere else. So public transportation, huge need, huge interest. But my biggest concern is public parking on 76 and the fact that there is a very big lack of public parking.
Yeah, great input, Jack. Yeah.
So, but I do have an interest. And I think my company has an interest, you know, from looking at their perspective of things, they have an interest as well. So,
Alex?
I've said a lot on it, but I just think we're in these unique positions, right, where we can take something like a vision like that, that's gonna be here long after we all are, right, in these positions or whatever. And implement that for what the future of 76 looks like, right? And so I just think sometimes we have to get over the barriers, right, whether they're perceived or not, but also to your point, Billy, follow the steps, right, with studies and whatnot to make sure it's justified. But this is, I'll commit to, this is something we're gonna revisit, right, and continue to work on, because I just think there's a lot of value that's here for the collective tourism industry for Branson. And ultimately, that has to be our vision, right, especially with 76 city, but also with the city. We have to be able to sometimes take ideas, I think, after your point on the landings, right? That was a twinkle in someone's eye in one day, and now it's a giant part of our city, right? And so just thinking outside the box, I just challenge everyone, we're in these unique positions for a reason. We got to maximize it and until they say pencils down. So that's just kind of, I think, our perspective and mindset on this is, let's just take some really cool ideas that are maybe hard to accomplish, but that's not going to deter us at the end of the day. So
Yeah, so we're not planning on spending any money quite a while. I say we get the downtown Sid's opinion, and if they're in favor, then the city will methodically start addressing what needs to be addressed.
It just sounds like everybody in the board kind of in favor.
Yeah.
That was lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Excellent.
thank you, Michael. We're back
Yeah,
to your.
Awesome. So I'll frame this up real quick. Now that we got the technical part hopefully fixed on this. We went out to get design for Gretna Road in 76, which is the ending part of segment 3 and also tying 1 and 2 together. We're starting to get some updates back in from CJW for turning lanes, stoplight improvements, so on and so forth. Part of their task was to look into the wow factors. We brought this to the board not too long ago. And now here we are today with the preliminary design, and we wanted to try to get some feedback from a first shot from Ferguson. So with that being said, I see everybody's online, and Chris Wynn's also online from CJW. If I need to frame anything else out, or you have anything to add on, Chris, take it away.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have anything to add. We're happy to be in front of you guys today. We're working with the city of Branson at this intersection, and as part of that, like Michael stated, that one of the responsibilities of our contract was to develop a wow factor in the southeast corner. And to do that, we've brought John Torgerson with TDP and his group on board to help from the architectural standpoint. And just hoping to get some feedback from you guys today so that they can keep moving forward with their concept. We didn't want to get too far along in the process and find out that we weren't going in the right direction. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeff and John with TDP. And if you guys have any questions from an engineering standpoint, I'd be happy to help. But from an architect and layout standpoint, it's TDP's to present.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, we weren't quite ready there. I've brought one of our design staff on. Jeff is going to kind of walk through this, so he's going to pull it up on his system. And like I was saying, this is a first wide brush at concepts. And so we'd love your input just to make sure we're going in the right direction. So Jeff, if you can pull that up.
Okay.
Maximize.
All right. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Not yet.
I'm not.
Paul may have to give you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hit the share button at the bottom. Okay.
Yeah, we can see it now. Perfect.
Okay, so we approached this with three different concepts, and we've started off with one that's the most grand and maybe price point at that level, and then that one was in taking on the whole entire intersection itself, and then two other options at different intensity levels that was looking at that right away that's on the edge of 76 and Gretna, opposite side of the Titanic exhibit itself. So the first layout was to look at a potential concept of a structure that is a pseudo circular form that splits across the roadway itself, so it doesn't become an issue with the lighting. And it's maybe held together with some type of a abstract tree statue, some type of stainless steel component that's on a horizontal band, which could have a feeling of this element that's above the light level itself, could create pockets where we have some LED screens that are generated to express what's happening with the city itself. And then just start talking about the vernacular if we want to speak about the music industry of the city itself, tying into maybe the mountain region and the lakes, the rivers. That all that could be kind of be the pseudo expressive feeling above, all while just kind of keeping out of the way and being good neighbors with existing pylon signs and building facades themselves. We try to just kind of express it as more of an abstract approach, and just have a little bit of a lighter touch because it's such a large intersection itself. The next option was to not focus on the intersection itself, but to focus on this larger right-of-way, and to look at this as potentially a walk-through pedestrian element. So not only are you seeing it from the vehicle, you also are can engage it by a walking path that runs through it. If it has a focal point of some type of a main statue element, and in creating some type of a park-like atmosphere, the use of natural stone walls, could be some backlit cutouts, and we can just kind of tailor it towards the story of the city of Branson itself. And that could have, sorry, went to the wrong one here. That could have a feeling where we have this lower level that's along the road itself. Maybe we're telling a story, a historical story of some type of lit placards. And then we have this elevated area where we change site level with some type of expressive wall, if that's made out of stone, if that's metal, if that's lit in some fashion. And then that allows us to swing up into an area where we can maybe do some type of an abstract structure. Could it be where we are as far as an abstract fiddle or guitar, and is incorporating imagery of a bee for Branson itself. So we could generate something from a long distance view from a car, or you can actually engage and get into this upper contour of the property here and use this as a Kodak type moment. We are showing where we're putting in some more decorative type trees in this area, just to help kind of land this piece down and just give some purpose to this piece on the side. Then our less of a impact or footprint financially is, could we just more focus on, you know, the central element where we just keep everything kind of tight around this piece and then just have a lot more green space to the side itself. We can tie in the use of musical scores for path walkways, tie mountainscapes or lakeways is cutouts on the actual placards as we're walking by. You know, these could be laser engraved panels, or it can be as much as going to some type of a digital display. At nighttime, it would be of interest to throw some light on here, and you could literally look at what was done down there at the landing where they were utilizing water and flame bombs and lights. Could you do that and actually let this be more of a lit display? You could incorporate sound into that if that's something where you want it to kind of on a regular interval. It plays some type of music for the season. That could be incorporated. Just bring some interest over to this corner, but not let it be a visual distraction as you're trying to utilize the intersection.
Jeff, can you go back to slide 5 for a minute and zoom in on that left-hand corner night shot? You know, we wanted to give you some other examples we found around that just provide that pedestrian trail, that nightlife. You know, that's the wow factor, is part of that nightlife and part of that night lighting. All three of these could be a level of that intensity depending on what direction you all like.
Wow. That's some super fly stuff. And I am so unqualified to give an opinion on it.
I think what we're looking at today is, the challenge was provide a wow factor to incorporate pedestrians and vehicular traffic. So I think not knowing your specific goals, maybe understanding, are we hitting the notes on some of the wow factor you're looking at, or should we investigate other definitions of wow factor?
It's the wheelhouse. Billy, are you there?
Yeah. You know, let me comment because it'll be very short. This is clearly not my wheelhouse. We have a lot of experts at the table and I'm gonna follow their lead. The only input I had was, obviously it's gonna be cost driven. We do want an area that I think, I would like to see continue enhancing is our wow factors. I keep going back to the fact that we're spending tens of millions of dollars. It needs to include wow factors. Another concern, and this is your wheelhouse, Jeff, is make sure it's not a distraction for the traffic. Want people to kind of move along.
Yeah, not hang out.
And for the theming, I'd be very much in favor, and I believe our community, if the theming stayed in the realm of music notes, instruments, something along the live music, emphasis on Branson, especially our entertainment district. I would be reluctant to support wow features that would include like any water features, any of that, only because of ongoing maintenance cost. So I want to be conscious of that. Other than that, I'm going to go with the group. Thank you, Jeff.
That one example, what was the slide that you had that had like lots of areas for the pedestrians to be in and hang out for a while? That one just troubled me a little bit because I'm like, I'm not sure that we really want them to get comfortable or have kids playing at the intersection there. I think it was beautiful and park-like. but yet I don't think we want people like really hanging out there too long. So I think one of the other selections might be better.
But in that bottom right-hand visual they do have it screened off.
Yeah.
So the little angels won't be running out of traffic. Or pets.
You could look at if you are not incorporating a walk on a lower elevation. And then use this as a planting bed, so it's not inviting people to be down at that area. And then let this be at the upper elevation along the parking field, and then utilize some type of a barrier wall that keeps people back in this back area. So you could do that. I just don't know. We just need to understand if that's enough separation, or if we need to just look a different direction.
And what wow factor needs to be available to be seen from the roadway. You know, do we want to slightly screen it and provide a buffer edge, but we also want the wow factor to be seen from the roadway?
Yeah. My knee jerk is, I think it's more of a roadway visual than a community gathering spot.
Mhm.
Here again, I said I wouldn't even say much, so.
Love the lighting, that's super fly. The cool different lights was really neat. The music, I like the bee and the guitar, I thought that was a cool idea. So, and that's the extent of my expertise too.
You've said super flag twice.
Did I say?
Maybe three. Yeah,
Maybe 3 times.
I would, I mean, I think they tell me one of their original slides, you know, that kind of showed that sphere around that intersection, I think looks nice and, you know, in some ways ties into the overall theming of the rest of the project, and I think that's important to keep in mind. You know, knowing it's 2 different companies and all, and you still have to buy the project. The wow factor, you know, is great, you know, but me knowing Chuck is the wow factor just past that intersection with his building, and of course then the Titanic is a wow factor, that's right too, and so, you know, what more do you need other than kind of beautifying that area, cleaning up that area, and I think with all in the back of our minds know what sits directly behind that proposed community area or that corner. I mean, there's a 2 rotten gas station and a rotten hotel sitting right there.
Yeah.
And so that's tough to combat. So I like the use of the trees, you know, in that area to kind of provide some of a screen from that. I think that'll be crucial too, that, yeah, the bee's cool somehow, you know, fits into the list of it all already, but what do we really need there and what is the cost of that? You know, which will of course matter.
Really?
I was just looking at all this, it has a bunch of great ideas in terms of the color, like the music, all that stuff. You know, it is a pretty tight space. I was just shocked to see how you can fit all that, and I want to see how's that, you know, perspective wise, scale wise, you know, how would you fit in there, because it's an intersection. And I know that there's a lot of merit in there, a lot of great idea, but the question is, number one of the things I would do is what Brian stuck in, it says, whatever we do, this is almost like a continuous segment too. It's gotta, like, I know that that's a different firm of doing it. But my only you know, my concern, you know, it's just with that small space. We like all this, but the question is, this is one heck of an intersection. And I don't know if you can fit all this, and just, what does that look like in scale wise? Because in some of this thing, it is a pretty big deal. You know, I know that sometimes we look at, like, water fountain is a great deal, but you know, all those water fountains got to be filtered. That's basically, you gotta we got that wild water, we got everything, the water that spits out has to be, you got a filter system that's got to be doing up. And then, you know, the winter we don't turn it on because when there's ice,
Could be beautiful in the winter.
Ice sculpture.
Frozen over.
Yeah.
But I can't really say one way or the other. They're like, oh, I like this. They all has great merit. You know, I like the color. I like the size. I like the size, but I can't believe what that looks like when you think about the space that you have with that intersection. Does it look like overbearing in terms of in some? So when you look at some of this scale, I'm thinking that sucker is going to be really, really big in that space. And then, you know, how does that work like stuff? But so maybe, I don't know if you guys are looking for like, input for like, I know there's a plan C, plan A, plan B. You know, I don't know if I could give you, I mean, they all have a good point of it. I'm not sure if, like, plan A, you know, you shown a couple icon in there. To me, it's great, but does it belong there? Does it fit in Branson? Does it, you know? Because I think the things have, because one of those look like it would follow up segment 2. But, you know, let me see, plan B. I'm like Kathy, there's gonna be a lot of stuff, a lot of kids could be hanging out in that intersection. That they could be, you know.
Too welcoming.
Well, but the question is it a road? Is it this? Is it opening? The other thing is, at one time we were doing this as like another gateway. Does it show a gateway? Does it show it as an entrance to a place? You know, like, you know, we have one in that end, and then we think, well, we need to do that at the other end. You know, so the question is it like, you know, is this like a banner coming into Branson, or is this? And so those, so I'm sorry that I don't really have like input to say. They all have. I think the biggest question I would say is, how do you apply? How does it fit? And, you know, how does it use in terms of the needs for the safety for the pedestrian? I mean, those are the things that we got to do to think about it. It's just, you know, individually they all have a great input. I say, oh, this is good, this is good, this is good. But the question is, how does it fit in the overall program?
Yeah.
I mean, is it, I mean, do we provide an area for people to hang out in the water fountain in a corner intersection?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you do that.
Jeff,
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's, I mean, those kind of, so really not, sorry that I don't have a direction, Kathy, like saying I like this, I like that. But I think that's some of my input in here. You know, some of this icon, to me, is a little off in terms of the too extreme, in terms of Branson.
Like too modern.
Well, not modern. I like what he said about lights and that stuff, because we're all about lights, we're all about sound, but it's also, this is a big intersection light also. So how does that fit in this, you know, and plus, can we even put music in there? Because you have all the stuff.
Yeah.
We don't want to create an accident waiting, yeah, so I think, but it's, in terms of something I've done, it just, it's great.
Jeff, do you know what the widest portion of this easement is?
No, I don't have that off the top of my head, but I want to say that you're probably looking somewhere in the 25 to 30 foot range.
Okay, thank you.
Guys, I apologize. I have to step away.
I'm with you.
So I've got people waiting for me, so I apologize. Everybody's comments are great. My only suggestion on this would be to potentially have a subcommittee type setup, maybe get Ann involved as well.
Yeah.
To give additional feedback and things like that. Life safety, of course, would be my biggest priority here, making sure that we're keeping everybody off the roadway.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a few of those that don't really comply with that. But again, I don't have a whole lot more than that. I think the designs are cool, but we just got to keep people safe and not make it a gathering area. So With that being said, hope everybody has a Merry Christmas, and I'm gonna hand it over to Brian.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Thanks,
To
guys.
say Merry Christmas to all also, I do have to run. I really appreciate what this committee's done, and I love the direction we're going. Obviously appreciate Chuck's leadership in this, and unless you're coming to the cookie contest tomorrow, I won't see you all till next year. All right, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Just,
Were we trying to get a approval or
No, it's
direction?
not approval, they were looking for a little bit of direction, what I've heard.
Yeah, this is Chris with CJW. I mean, the whole intention of this meeting is just to get your guys' input. I mean, we kind of started with a blank slate. And we tasked the architect with coming up with this wow factor without really having a basis of what the board's expectations for the wow factor were. So as much input that we can obtain from you guys is just going to go right back in so that we can refine these renderings and give you guys something that you guys can be proud of for the city and for this corridor. So we appreciate the input. And just to clarify a couple things, someone asked what the width of that is, and actually at the widest part it's closer to 50 feet wide. So we have, we do got a good green space there, and I understand that having pedestrians near an intersection is something we don't want to encourage more than necessary. But I do think there is a little bit more green space there than it may look like. Also, to kind of go with the gateway concept, it's our understanding that both to the east and the west of this intersection, there's already going to be gateways on 76 as other parts of this ongoing project. So we're kind of, and also we have the traffic signal there. If we're going to do a gateway, we want to do it at like a mid-block crossing somewhere we don't have a traffic signal. It's hard for us to put some sort of gateway over the intersection that's going to conflict with the traffic signals. At the end of the day, from a traffic engineering standpoint, our biggest concern is making sure that from a liability standpoint that by whatever we put in this intersection or what we put around the intersection isn't going to get someone distracted or make someone claim that they can't see the traffic signal and get someone in a wreck or get somebody killed. So we have to, being at the intersection, we have to be very aware of what we're doing. So that kind of goes back to the half circle idea. We were keeping it in the right of way so that we aren't hanging out over those traffic signals more than we need to. We're also making sure that we're elevated above the traffic signals if we were to go with that route. So that's kind of how we've come up with the ideas we have and why you necessarily might not see a gateway if that was something that you were expecting. Another thing is I don't think we intend to do a water aspect to this. I know that the city staff has been pretty adamant about not wanting to do water here just because of the maintenance, the winter look, as someone else mentioned. So I don't think we're going to go that route with this, and that wouldn't be our expectations. So that's just some of the general background information. But yeah, any input that we can get, I mean, that's the whole purpose. We asked, City of Branson, like, hey, can you guys get us in front of this board so that we can lay out our conceptual ideas, get your guys' input so that we can go back to the drawing board and give you guys something that, really meets your guys' expectations. So, I mean, we appreciate the input we've got, and I think we've got a lot of good notes, but yeah, the more the merrier. If you guys got something that you think we can improve on, that's what we're after.
Love it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Else have anything to say?
Then Michael says, more water features.
No, I definitely didn't say that.
Love it. Thank
Have
you,
they
guys.
seen any of our other conceptual?
A little bit, but there's no separation of stuff.
I get that,
Yeah.
but it's public and it's recorded, they go up and.
Yeah, I mean, they've been upstairs and seen the printouts and stuff like that.
Cause they're close here, I mean, I think I like that, you know, easily tie the material into, tie it into the rest of the pavement.
Well, the idea was to go most expensive, middle of the road, kind of a good, better, best situation. So as soon as you go aerial, Kristen expressed this in our last meeting, as soon as you go aerial, you incur significant cost because you have to go underground too for footings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the aerial one is a very attractive one, but it's also the most expensive one.
And I think just to mention on the aerial one is, we're showing this aerial aspect on two corners of the intersection. We could come in and maybe just do the aerial on the southeast corner, do that semicircle there where we've got all the room, and then maybe do some sort of landscaping, pedestrian path underneath it as well, and just kind of go with the southeast corner. That way you do have more of a wow factor that you're seeing from the road. Maybe it's more of a gateway-esque idea, but it's not necessarily a gateway in the sense that it goes over the road, but you're limiting the cost to where it's going to be easier to construct because we've got more room, and you're cutting down the aerial by 50% by just doing it on this corner. We could run with an idea like that and try to incorporate some of the other colors and materials that we've seen and the other phases of this, if you think that might be a favorable option.
Another thing to think about, I know even with this plan, because you have a lot of what's called walking crossing on this intersection. I know you can't do that to the line because you add another one when you do that kind of stuff. So I know, it's like I said, when you look at that space, there's not much space. So a lot of the render look like, wow, it's really open, but it's great if you can do it. But also the biggest thing, like what Chuck was saying, safety is one that you gotta think about. Because that is a hard intersection for crossing. A lot of people are walking, crossing the area more, So,
right, and I think it's important to realize that Chris Wynn and CJW, they're doing the intersection completely. This is the add-on of the wow part of it. Chris is really working through that, and we're working through that with MoDOT, signalized intersection and buttons, head buttons, resting areas, on and on.
And then, like I said, they know this is their world, crossing and highway and whatever it is, traffic, this is outlet. But just like I said, I think the biggest thing, there's a lot of crossing in there.
And when we originally put this out to Chris's, talk on there, is we said, hey, what could you do with the signal to make it a true gateway, right? So we kind of captured that, and I think through long discussions and cost that kind of limited itself. So this was the next option to just start going down there. There was also the concern of once you start adding stuff up there, it becomes a distraction, as you said, is what is the liability if somebody does have an accident, and where does that fall? And their specialty is truly intersections, so.
Excellent.
And the other thing that a lot of the concept encroach too much about, I don't know what properties we're gonna get. But because I know there's a big sign in one of the area, but this one picture here is pretty much open. Okay, it's gonna improve.
And we already have that, so that they were tasked with that. We wanted to stay out of getting anything. The original, if you rotate a little bit to the west, was along, right there. The original thought was that you needed a turning lane. Chris's group did a pretty in-depth study to make sure if it warranted it or not, and Chris can speak to it a little bit, but it did warrant it. So what we did was going up that hill, we increased that right-hand turn lane a little bit, so you have a higher stacking queue, even knowing that they're there, and that should help with that. And so then they were tasked with, well, here is basically a little bit of land that we have to work with, and what can you get there? Just a little bit of an update, since I haven't done an update in a while.
Who owns that land? Who owns that site?
Lamar.
Yeah, that's Lamar Signs. Yeah, just to speak to a little bit of what city staff is saying. We've looked at that eastbound right turn lane there that goes along that retaining wall that has the big sign on the corner, and it doesn't warrant a separate right turn lane. And from an engineering standpoint, if we put in a right turn lane that's not warranted, we're creating just another conflict for pedestrians. That's just one more lane of traffic the pedestrians have to cross. So with it not being warranted, our recommendation to the city, and we provided them a letter, is to not put it in the right turn lane, because we're just creating another place for pedestrians to have to cross, and we're giving them another option to get hit by a car. So, we're trying to avoid that. So, the city's got, doing the improvements at the city, or on this project. So what we're doing is we're extending the northbound right turn lane queuing. That's where we saw the most impact or most benefit. So we're expanding the storage length in that northbound right turn lane, so it's easier for the people headed north to make that turn. So in addition to that, we're doing all new pedestrian crossings. We're going to be putting in some intersection improvements, new poles there. The new signal poles will be the black ones to match some of the other phases in the city. So it's going to be all new pedestrian, new sidewalks. It's going to be very pedestrian friendly from a intersection standpoint, as well as some traffic improvements, and then whatever comes of the wow factor in the corner. So I think at the end of the day, the city is going to get a nice project here to really help this intersection with the budget they have.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Ferguson.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Okay, is there any other new business to discuss? It's good. It's motion to adjourn.
I think we'll to adjourn.
All right. Thank you.
Well, Merry Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas to you
Thank you.
all.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Have you been good? Are you good again?
I'm on the ninth list.
Yes.